Do you struggle to be completely honest with God in prayer? Not just with your praise, but about your pain. On day 18, we talked about setting limits with others, but today we're facing a harder truth. If you struggle with transparency in your relationships with humans, there's a good chance you're not always honest with God either. This is day 19 of my new book, For His Glory, Disclosing and Destroying the Spiritual Roots of Codependency. My name is Naomi Claxton, and today we're learning how to stop performing our faith and how to pray with authenticity, transparency, and trust. The woman in the story, Maya, grew up in a home where complaining was forbidden. Her parents' favorite quote, "In everything give thanks," became a muzzle. Negativity was not allowed, even in expressing feelings, not even sadness. As a child, when her parents lost a child, lost businesses, and even their home when her mother had cancer, Maya's parents never prayed about their pain or their struggles in front of their daughter. She never heard them murmuring or complaining, but more importantly, she never heard them acknowledging the stress and the pain that they were going through to God. They leapfrogged every hardship directly to praise, skipping the raw, messy middle, the place where God meets us most profoundly. So Maya learned to do the same. At prayer meetings, she'd listen to other people share their struggles, but she never raised her hand to request prayer. She was happy to give a praise report, but she believed her problems weren't real enough to warrant prayer. One night, lying awake, anxious, dealing with insomnia that she had had for months, about a fear that she knew she carried but was too embarrassed to say out loud, she said, "God, I'm terrified of losing my job, and I don't know why." In that moment, something shifted. She felt peace enter the room. She felt the presence of God. But that raw, honest confession, without an ask, without a request, her fear turned into faith because God met her there in truth. The foundational principle for day 19 is very simple. You cannot heal what you hide. We talked about this on day 1. We have to be willing to acknowledge the place of our pain, and pouring out your whole heart to God. Every fear, every need, every doubt is something that Christians struggle with because we believe that we should trust God more. We should have more faith. We should praise Him in advance for the outcome of a circumstance. But if your heart and your spirit are gripped with fear, if you are overwhelmed, if you are run down, exhausted, if you do not see a way out of your situation, and you're holding that in and covering your truth with polished prayers of praise, you are denying God the opportunity to meet you in your truth. Telling the truth is how secrecy gives way to freedom and anxiety gives way to peace. Psalm 138 tells us God cares about and will perfect everything that concerns us. Nothing is too small, too messy, too late, too tangled up, too unimportant for His attention. That's why 1 Peter 5:7 reminds us to cast all of our cares on Him, because He does care for us. Look throughout the Bible, especially look in the Psalms. David never edited his emotions. In Psalm 39, he vents a raw, honest prayer about his emotions to God. And just one chapter later, he's singing again. "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He put a new song in my mouth." Between the lament and the lyric, we don't see anything change. But what has happened is God has heard, and David is clear that God is with him. That is the power of honest prayer. Anxiety thrives in secrecy. Peace flows through surrender. Don't feel guilty for your worries, your emotions, or your pain. Release them. Pour them out in prayer and then seal them, as David shows us how to do with praise. The God who hears, the God who sees, the God who provides is already at work. I want you to think this week about one thing you have been afraid to say out loud to yourself, much less put into a prayer. How could bringing that thing, that situation, that relationship, that person, that fear to God release your anxiety today? The moment you stop pretending with God, you are in relationship with God. If this message spoke to you, grab your copy of For His Glory on my website and join me tomorrow for day 20 on the topic stewardship versus showmanship, where we'll explore how to live and serve God from a place of authenticity, not performance.